Hi, my name is Bella Carrasco, and helping others feel confident about investing brings a huge smile to my face. After working in the private equity, family office, and securities markets for nearly a decade, I am breaking down the world of money, investing, and financial freedom. Work optionality isn't a dream, it's a decision you make today. I bring you actionable tips, expert interviews, and enlightening strategies to help you get richer and stay that way. This is the How Do You Know podcast. And this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Please consult with a qualified financial professional for advice specific to your situation. The views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of the podcast producers or sponsors. We make no representations or warranties regarding the accuracy or completeness of the content. If you are anything like me, picking the right credit card is an extremely ominous and confusing process. So having Matt come on, I hope was extremely helpful for you. I know leaning on him for advice has been extremely helpful for me. And one of the biggest tricks that Matt has taught me is how to transfer points, because I was definitely a victim of just going into my Chase portal account and redeeming points that way. Whereas it's actually more beneficial to transfer points to the actual partner and getting more out of your points that way and extending them further. So if I want to book a United flight, instead of going through the Chase portal to do that, I then transfer them to United and then use the points in my United account from then on. And that goes the same for any transfer partner. And another trick that Matt has taught me is when you're redeeming points, it actually can be more beneficial to wait until 1 or 2 weeks before. He is really good at locating those patterns. So if you have a trip that you know you want to take in a year from now, maybe just monitor what those prices are 4 weeks before the trip, 3 weeks before, 2 weeks before, 1 week before, and see how the points change for that specific flight. Because when Matt and I went to Japan with a group of friends, he begged me not to book my flight until a week before. My type A personality was not having fun with that. I felt like every day for probably a month, I was texting him, "Are you sure that these flight points are not going to go up? I only have this limited amount of points. I don't want to mess this up." But it got to trust the process. Everything worked perfectly fine. I also like to spend money on travel and dining. So, as Matt said, you just have to look at what you actually spend the most of your money on. So, for me, I love to travel. Food is my love language, and so dining out is very big for me. So, I'm spending money on travel and dining. And so, as Matt said, look at what you're paying, and if it's in categories you're already spending on, then that credit card fee might be worth it. But I do want to reiterate, if you're not using Peloton and you're like, "Oh, well, I guess I can just get this membership," to me, that's dead money. To me, that isn't included in the credit card fee that I am applying for or renewing in my case specifically during this time. If there's any benefit that I think that I won't use, I am not using my fee calculation towards that. So if a credit card is $800 per year, $300 of that goes to dining, 100 goes to hotels, and 100 goes to Peloton. I'm only going to say $400 of that $800 is what I will actually be using. Technically, I'm only paying $400 for this card. I'm not including the Peloton because I personally don't use that. So that's something that I would really be honest with yourself about. I also like that my Chase Sapphire Reserve has rental car coverage, and the lounges have been lifesavers for me when I've been traveling abroad. So I have been very loyal to my Chase Sapphire Reserve card personally. But again, if you don't travel, it doesn't make sense to get that card. Now that the fees have gone up rather dramatically for that card, I will be considering Amex. I don't love Amex because it's not taken overseas a lot of the time, and that's where I do a lot of my travel. But like Matt said again in the episode, that's when you can have a backup card. It is also important to remember that Chase is the only one that has the United travel connection. So I personally do travel United. And so since Amex doesn't have the transfer points to United, that's another aspect that I have to calculate in determining whether I want to stay with the Chase Sapphire Reserve or move to Amex. I personally also lean on the points guy. He has some really cool tools on his website that can help you calculate the best bang for your buck when it comes to the credit card points and your spending categories and things like that. So if you have a good sense of what you spend money on, you can just put those buckets into a monthly expense calculator, and then it will automatically show you what those expenses could be worth in terms of travel points. In terms of how many credit cards you should have, I really like the advice of only 2 or 3, because you can really get overwhelmed and play a dangerous game with debt, which is never fun to deal with. So I also didn't realize the ding to your credit score wasn't so big. So that's another item for me to consider as well. Do I just cancel my Chase Sapphire Reserve card instead of downgrading it, or does it actually impact my credit score a little bit more? Am I going to make a big purchase where I can't get this credit score back up before considering my other options? So for me personally, less is more. Just having a couple of cards that give me the most points for travel and dining, because that's what I spend the most on. Going back to Amex Gold is interesting because you can get points for most of the categories that you spend on in a particular month, which is super nice. But again, there's pros and cons to everything. So I'm also going to have to look at the fact that I won't have the United travel points. So do I want to then get on board with another carrier, or do I want to stick with United? I hope this helps in your journey towards picking a credit card. Good luck, and until next time, adios. Thank you for tuning in today. If you found any value and want to support the podcast, I would be forever grateful if you texted someone the link. You can say that you have a podcast episode that may be interesting for them. Also, if you have questions or topics you want covered, please don't hesitate to reach out on LinkedIn or Instagram. Remember that every step makes a difference. I hope that you continue to learn how to get richer and stay that way.